up, everybody? Garrett back here, and the video I want to make today is something I've been thinking about doing for quite a while. And HeMan Revelation trailer just dropped on Netflix yesterday, and I checked it out this morning, and it actually looks really cool. So that was kind of the kicker I needed to kind of get this video out. It might be a little bit of a long one because it's going to be my history with HeMan. Now, I'll get to it in a little bit, but one of the main reasons I created this channel in the first place was not only to showcase my collection, but also as a way to kind of get my son involved in all these things that I'm really into. Again, maybe he won't enjoy the same stuff, but maybe he will. So I was hoping that eventually, I've talked about this before, that he, once he gets to a certain age, can kind of join me on some of these videos and talk about some of the cool things that he's into. So let's bring it back a little bit. So I was about 3 years old, and I remember getting my first action figure. And this kind of snowballed my obsession with action figures and collecting and stuff like that. And that action figure was this one right here. So I'm sure you guys know exactly what this is. This is the Battle Armor Skeletor. This is the actual action figure that I got at 3 years old. As you can see, this thing has been through some battles. It could have been in the sandbox. I mean, this thing took a beating, and I am surprised that I still have this. I will talk a little bit more about that, but really quick, I don't even know exactly the date on this. It says it right here. 1984. So again, that's perfect because I would have been 3 years old. 84. Yeah, I would have been 3 in 1984. So this was the first action figure I got. I don't remember much about, why I got this. I don't know if I saw it on a store shelf and was like, I want that. That looks so cool. Or if my parents just randomly got it for me. But this was the first one. And as a kid having some home videos, which we didn't have a lot, there was a lot of times that you see me carrying this guy around. Now, I was obsessed with this figure, and I can remember the second one that I got was actually Battle Armor HeMan around the same time. I think it was a little bit after I received this guy. I unfortunately do not have that anymore. I will talk about that in a little bit when it comes to my original HeMan collection, but I was able to still keep this original Battle Armor Skeletor in my possession. All right, so growing up, I was just so obsessed with HeMan at the time. The TV shows, I can still remember watching them and collecting these action figures from this line. And I still have vivid memories of going to places like Ann and Hope and Child World and Kmart and all these other stores that are no longer in existence around my area, and I don't think at all. And I can remember just stocking up on a lot of these figures. I was obsessed with them. And over the years, as I got older, my mom went through a period of time where, either we sold it at a yard sale or it was just kind of tossed or given away. But most of my collection is long gone at this point. I had Castle Grayskull. I had a lot of the vehicles. I mean, I had almost everything from that line. I was getting it at Christmases, at birthdays. I can even remember on Halloween, I was dressing up like characters from HeMan. It was just something that I was totally obsessed with. And it was the first, I'm going to say, action figure line that I really, really loved. Now, like I said, a lot of my stuff was either tossed or sold. I don't remember exactly where it went. But it's weird because I was able to still kind of hang on to a little bit of the original figures from my collection. I don't know how they never were thrown away. I don't know exactly how I was still able to maintain these. But after moving into my home and going to my parents' house and searching through some of my old stuff, I was able to come across a few, which I'll kind of show now. And if I have any vivid memories of these, I will let you guys know. Some I do, some I don't. But the first one is, which I think is probably one of the earlier ones that I got into my collection, was this HeMan here. I don't remember what this one was called. Dragon something maybe. I think he might have came with some kind of like animal or whatever. But the first one I did have was the Battle Armor. I did have the original one, which I think I ended up getting with Battle Cat at some point. But yeah, this one I had him. I had, I think it was Thunder Punch. There was one where you could put caps in them and stuff like that. I had him. But this is the only He-Man that survived. As you can see, he's kind of beat up as well. But this is it. This is the only one that kind of survived my collection growing up. Another big one, which I think was one of the earlier ones I had, which I was obsessed with, was Hordak. Hordak at one point was probably like my favorite character in that line. You know, it's sad because I'm trying to remember the TV show. It's been a real long time since I've seen it, but I don't think he really made as much of an impact on the show as he did in action figure line. I can even remember dressing up like him for Halloween one year as well. So yeah, Hordak. Hordak was one of my favorite figures. He's right up there with that Battle Armor Skeletor, but this is one that I definitely have fond memories with, and I'm still glad I have this guy in my collection. All right, another one that has a lot of fond memories, which I love, was Stinkor. So it's funny because he still has a little bit of that remnants smell. It's very, very faded, but you can kind of still smell it in there. I mean, man, we're talking about an action figure that is almost about 40 years old, and it still has a little bit of that scent. So you can only imagine when this thing left that package how it smelled. Now, because I was so young and this was like the first action figure line that I was really into, I mean, you had a skunk action figure named Stinkor, and you're like, oh my god, he stinks, this is a smelly smell, blah, 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 blah. And I think it was really patchouli oil that they used to make that smell. Now, funny story is, let me know if you guys feel the same way, but that smell has been embedded in my brain since I was like 3 or 4 years old. I can remember one time on the bus, this was probably in middle school or high school, and I hate saying this, but a girl got on the bus and must have had that oil on her or something like that. And I remember sitting there and I got that whiff, and all of a sudden I was like, what is that? Like, light bulbs went off, and I'm like, that smells like Stinkor. Like, who is that? Like, who smells like that? And, you know, in my head, it was an awful smell because I just associated it with a skunk action figure that I had as a kid that was supposed to be stinky and gross. So, funny story I'll never forget is smelling that again later on in life, and right away my brain was thinking Stinkor. Now, keeping on those same lines, another one I'm actually glad I was able to keep, like Stinkor, was Mossman, who, again, I don't really smell much here, but he had a scent as well. I don't know if it was like, it kind of smelled like those green tree car fresheners or something like that, but he also had a smell too, so I was very happy to have him still in my collection. So what's funny about those two is technically Stinkor and Mossman are repaints of Beastman and Merman, but for some reason I always liked these two more as a kid. I think because I really liked the characters with the gimmicks. One of the other main characters that I really loved, I can say two right now, but I don't have them anymore, was Mosquitor, which had like the blood. I really liked him. I liked Spikor because he had like the spike rubber on him. I really liked him. And King Hiss is another one that I absolutely loved as a kid as well. And I can remember getting King Hiss with Tongue Lasher, and I think it was Ratlore was the other guy's name. And those three were like my favorites for a long, long time. So I sadly don't have any of those anymore. There are a couple more I do still have. There's 3 more here. They're very bare bones. They're missing a lot of stuff. The first one is Grizzlor. As you can see, he's missing like his armor or whatever, but he was always pretty cool, Grizzlor. And this guy was one of my favorites. Cyclone. Look at that. So vibrant. I love this dude. This guy was awesome. Another one, this was an early one I had as a kid, was Webstore. I think that was his name. He was like the spider one, and he had like the little string that came out. I would swing him and Trapjaw from my fan in my bedroom as a kid. But yeah, bare bones. And the last one is Ninjor, which I kind of feel like he came later in the line, I believe. But I don't have his gear or anything like that. But it was kind of funny because I can remember kind of almost being a little bit disappointed when I took the hood off and this was the guy underneath. I actually was kind of disappointed. I don't know what I was expecting, but I can remember always kind of being bummed out at that point that he looked like this underneath. I think this is still a cool one to have now. So like I said, that is all I still have from my childhood collection. Everything else is gone. And it's actually quite sad because now to actually attain those things, it would cost so much money. And it's just sad that I had everything and it was tossed, you know, as I was growing up. I think we know now as collectors not to do that. And where back then it was just kind of almost a rite of passage. Like as soon as you get to a certain age, your toys were just dumped or given away or something like that. And I lost a lot. Like we're going from He-Man, and then I think I went to Ninja Turtles and then Ghostbusters, and you know, those are all gone. Like I may have a couple from each, but not what I had. I mean, I had all the bases and the vehicles and stuff like that. So it is quite sad that I never ended up keeping those or even knowing where they went. So that was kind of a rundown on my childhood collection. Now, what I want to get into now is my history with He-Man going forward. Now, you know, after all those things were tossed away and I started getting older and collecting other things like horror movies and DVDs and, you know, all these other kind of things, He-Man just kind of was left to the wayside. It wasn't something I was really into anymore. I never collected the 2000X line. I never collected the Classics line. Even though I thought that was really cool when Classics came out, it was just like, you know what, I'm not gonna start that again. And I never got any of that stuff. So He-Man for me was kind of dead at that point. I still liked it and for nostalgia reasons, but as far as collecting purposes, like it was long gone. I had no interest in it anymore. There was enough stuff I was collecting. I didn't want to even start something new. So at that point, I was done with He-Man, done. So fast forward now, I ended up grabbing a couple books since then, just because again, with He-Man, one of the biggest draws for me was a lot of the artwork. Like as a kid, I had like picture books and all this other stuff with just that artwork on it that was just so cool at the time that you would see on these boxes and stuff like that. So the first book that I ended up getting was this Art of He-Man, and it basically goes through, it's really cool. I mean, it goes through a lot of the artwork that were on a lot of the, you know, the boxes and a lot of posters and stuff that never ended up making it to production. So in here as well, they just have a lot of concept art and stuff. And this is a real cool book. Very, very cool. So if you guys haven't checked this one out, it is The Art of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe by Tim and Steve Seeley. Really, really cool book. Now, from there, things kind of went full circle. Now, I had my son 2 years ago, so he's going to be 3 this upcoming February. So me having all this kind of stuff and collectibles and stuff like that, it was something that I'm hoping that, you know, someday he really gets into some of the same stuff because, you know, this YouTube channel is one of those things where I could talk about my collection, but also in the future, I would love him to be kind of part of this in a way. Like I said, coming full circle, randomly, He-Man Origins was announced about 2 years ago. And, you know, you come to the store and you start seeing these He-Man Origins, which are basically like replicas of the original He-Man action figures that I was into as a kid, except now they're just a little bit more updated with more articulation and, you know, they're sculpted a little bit different, but same packaging, same size. And I just thought that was really cool. Now, with that being said, I was thinking to myself, wow, like these are awesome. This reminds me of like my childhood. I was 3 years old when I first got my first He-Man action figure. What if I start collecting these now and trying to get my son into He-Man before he turns 3? So what I started doing is really just kind of diving deep into these Origins line and trying to collect these things with the idea of opening them and giving them to my son for Christmas. Now, I think I'm going to try to give him a couple before then, just to kind of get him used to what He-Man is and maybe show him the new show. I don't know how kid-friendly it is, but I'm thinking about trying to get him hooked on that new show, maybe as we get closer to Christmas this year, and see if he kind of starts to enjoy it. So I've been kind of on a He-Man adventure on my own now of trying to get all these origin lines for him to have that Christmas, if he's into these things, to open all these gifts and see all these He-Man figures. It's like one of those Christmases that as a kid you only dream about, right? So right now I'm doing pretty good with the collecting. I will say this about the He-Man's origin line with a lot of other things when it comes to collecting now is the stores are so dead around here. They've been dead for years because, again, I'm a big wrestling fan, so I'd always go down the aisle and kind of check out, some of the wrestling figures, and if there was any like old legends or anything like that in there, I would always kind of pick one up just for nostalgia purposes. And man, the stores have been empty for years. I have never seen the poor quality. As soon as like Toys R Us went under, it was like toys and action figures and stuff was just, you couldn't find them anywhere. So I don't know if it's the supply and demand aspect is terrible. I don't know if there's, people are saying there's a lot of scalpers out there that'll come in early and just take everything. So the stores are always just so dead around me, which has kind of made this little adventure awful. It's been tough. The only thing around me right now has been that first wave. That first wave that I've had for almost a full, I'm going to say at least since the beginning of the year. So I was able to get like HeMan, Tila, Skeletor, Beastman, Merman, like that whole first wave I was able to get right away. Then things started getting difficult, and if you're a collector, you kind of know how this goes, is once you start going down the rabbit hole, it becomes a real slippery slope. And again, I have to remember, I have such a collector mentality for my own stuff that now I'm trying to do something for my son, and more of like, hey, I'm expecting him to open these things and play with these things, so a lot of it, like, I shouldn't care so much about. But as soon as I'm down that rabbit hole, I get stuck because now Origins is releasing like exclusives here, exclusives there, Comic-Con exclusive, PowerCon exclusives, Walmart exclusives, and that's where things get pricey and they also get stressful. I'm sure if anybody's watching this who is collecting Origins, they know like how stressful this is to collect these things now because it's just so hard to find these things. So, it is kind of been a little bit of an adventure for me, not necessarily a fun, enjoyable one, but an adventure in itself. So let's start getting into that really quick. And like I said, I've been able to kind of start piecing things together as we go, using things like Amazon and Big Bad Toy Store. And, if I see something at Walmart or Target, like I said, which is mostly just wave one. So a lot of these other figures I've grabbed like Scareglow and She-Ra and all these other things that I've been able to grab has mainly been like Amazon will put something out for, retail price and it'll last like an hour and then it shoots up to like $30 a figure. I'm not going to try to spend that kind of money on these. I'm waiting in hopes that the stores are going to catch up with these waves eventually and I can get these at retail price. Again, I'm not really in a rush right now. My goal is to have everything up to date by Christmas and wrap these things for him. Obviously, with some of these real rare ones, I may think twice about even letting him use these to play with and more just keep them as collecting purposes. And you know me, being a collector, sometimes I'm buying two of something because I'm like, oh, he can open one and I can keep one and package. So, it's been crazy. But I wanted to kind of talk about this because, like I said, he will be 3, and that's when I started collecting He-Man. So I'm kind of hoping that he kind of follows in those same footsteps. So everything kind of just came, at the right time with this Origins line. So I have a couple things right here from Origins that I've been able to grab that I just think I need to showcase because they're just so cool. They're just so cool. The first one here is Battle Cat. Now, this was one of my favorites as a kid. And man, like, you see this on the shelf and you're my age and you can't help but just be drawn to it. Like, this looks and feels just like Battle Cat did as a kid when I saw it for the first time at a store. I mean, the artwork is on point. It's got that same feel, there's a little more articulation, but it still got the same scale and feel as the original one did. So, I saw that in the store and right away I was like, oh, I gotta have it. I was able to find that, thank God. And, that's gonna be one of the coolest things, I think, for him, because I've already kind of started showing him some of the new commercials which simulate the old commercials like when I was a kid. So that's the first one I wanted to showcase. The next one is the Sky Sled with Prince Adam. Now, man, same thing. Look at the artwork here. How cool is that? And that just reminds me so much of, the vehicles that I had as a kid. And to get Prince Adam in there is always a plus. Now, I know a couple people now are saying, buy a multiple Sky Sled so you can have other people ride them. And, I may buy one more. I think they are actually on sale now. So if you can get them lower than retail, I'll probably grab one more for him as well. All right, now the next one I want to show is, to me, one of the coolest ones that's come out so far. And that is Land Shark, Land Shark. If you remember the old commercial and me being so obsessed, like, Mom, I need Land Shark. And to get Land Shark now, like all these years later, is unreal. And like the artwork here, like, oh my God, like how cool is this? That's another one where I almost feel like I should get two and keep one displayed in box and have him play with the other one. And that's just such a cool, vehicle. So right now, those are like the main ones I have when it comes to the vehicles. I love that like double packaging, the bigger packaging. The artwork is just always so cool on those. Here's where things get a little bit crazy now with this Origins line, okay? Like I said, I'm doing my best to kind of piece everything together as much as I can. So, we have Panther here. Cool artwork there. Matches Battlecat great. I can remember having both Battlecat and Panther as kids. Now, the biggest thing with this was that he wasn't flocked, like the original that I had as a kid. And that was always a bummer. That was a bummer to me. Then, of course, there's word that, hey, we're going to do a Walmart exclusive Panther with flocked fur. So then it becomes, okay, we know how the exclusives work. They're very hard to find. Luckily, I had a friend that was able to locate one for me. So I was able to get flocked Panther. Now, I'm thinking I'm going to try to get two of these. Probably keep one for my collection and one for him to use. I mean, he could easily use the plastic one. I could do that and keep the flocked one kind of mint. Or if I find another flocked one, I'll probably get that too, because again, Panther was such a cool character because of that flocking that it had. It was just so different than anything that you've had before. You've got a Panther with his nice furry coat. So I think that was also a cool gimmick that I want him to be able to experience as well. Now, again, flocked Panther is not easy to come by, at least right now around here. You've got to dig and search, and they're on eBay for triple the price and double the price. And so luckily I had somebody that was able to locate me one, and for retail. So I lucked out on that. Now the next one is probably one that's been making people the most crazy. Now that is this Lords of Power set. Now with these two characters that weren't, I don't believe were in the original toy line, but they're characters that everybody knows from the comic books and kind of more of an origins of Skeletor and Trapjaw. Again, I collected these as a kid and I loved them, but I didn't really do much after that. Like, I didn't collect classics. I didn't follow the comic books. This was all stuff I did as a kid, so it was kind of like whatever the show said, that's what I had. And so to me, these two characters aren't nostalgic to me at all. I think this is something that I'm probably just going to keep in box just because of the rarity of this right now. If I find another one and I maybe grab it, then I'll probably have him open this just to kind of keep his army big. So he can have a little bit more figures to use. But I know a lot of people are crazy for it. It's cool. I don't think that the detail on those figures are great, but it's just one of those things where when exclusives start getting involved in stores where you can't even find wave 2 or wave 3, and now we have to find this limited box, I mean, it gets crazy. So what I ended up doing was one day I was near a Target that I usually don't go to, and for whatever reason I saw a line outside the store, and I was like, what is this about? And I went in and I said, what's this line for? And in my head I'm thinking, oh my God, did they get that Lords of Power pack and all these people are in line like waiting for it? So when I went in, they were like, oh no, they're waiting for cards. And again, that's another whole thing I don't even want to get into. I'm not into the card game. I was into baseball cards hardcore as a kid. I am not going to go down that road, but that's another thing right now that is hot again. So these people were waiting in line for cards at Target. So I say, you know what, while I'm here, I'm going to go check and see if they're Lords of Power. And they didn't. So as I'm walking out, I pull up the website and it said that they had some available at that store I was at. So I was like, what the? So I went down, I found an employee. I said, hey, listen, it says that you guys have these in stock. There's nothing here. Can you go in the back and check? So he went in the back and checked and came back out and said, We might have them. They are probably buried at the bottom of a pallet, but I don't have time to go through it today. Now, at that point, if I'm thinking to myself, they have these back there, like, I cannot leave without these. Like, nobody's finding these things. I have not seen these things anywhere. So I went to the service desk and was basically like, hey, it says you guys have these in stock. Like, they said they think it's on a pallet. And somebody go back and check. And, 20 minutes later, someone came out and says, we have a pack of 2, but we can only sell you 1. So I said, oh, sold. So that's where I was able to kind of come across that Lords of Power set, which I know a lot of people are kind of clamoring over. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with that one yet, but just an idea of how hard it is to have a collection of things, because I'm the type of person where it's like, if I'm collecting something, like, I want it all. And that brings us to the next thing I want to show is my favorite thing I was able to come across so far. Boom. Castle Grayskull. Look at this thing. It's bigger than me. Huge. Look at this artwork on the back. How nuts is that? So how cool is that Castle Grayskull? Now, that was like my favorite thing as a kid was Castle Grayskull. Cannot believe I do not still own it, but I'm so happy that I'm able to score the new one now. I know it is kind of hard to come by. Funny story about that is my mother knows, my game plan here to kind of grab a lot of these new figures and play sets and stuff for my son. And she actually has been looking online for Castle Grayskull. And the other night, I guess she was up at like 4 in the morning and she got an alert saying that it was in stock on Walmart.com. And she ended up purchasing one. So that's how I was able to kind of score that, because I have not seen this in stores in my area at all. And every time I go online, it's out of stock. So luckily enough, it came through. I just got it the other day. So I'm definitely happy to have that thing. I can't wait to kind of dig into it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about really quick is, the exclusives that this Origins line has. It's been crazy. The exclusives just been so nuts and, really hard to come by, especially, these Comic-Con exclusives and PowerCon exclusives. The whole PowerCon thing was a little bit of a debacle. I went on their website when it was supposed to drop. I think it was on a Saturday, and their website just wasn't working. It wasn't working. Nothing was going on. It was the same page before it would even went live. So finally I went to Big Bad Toy Store and they had a couple things up, and I was able to grab the Fakor with his Duplicat pack. And that's the only thing I grabbed. I didn't have any of the 4-packs, Lords of Power or anything that came out from Comic-Con. So I was like, you know what? I don't need the Hordak set. I'm going to get all those basic figures. Again, I'm not going to spend that kind of money. As much as I want everything, you know what? They're kind of releasing some of those figures, in standalone editions. So I'm just going to kind of wait and see if I can grab some there. But I thought the Fakor with Duplicat was cool, just for the cat mostly. I mean, I don't have no nostalgia to that thing. I don't even know where it comes from. I know it wasn't in the original line. I think it was like a custom or something like that. But just to have another Battle Cat type thing in, the mix is always kind of cool. I'm really big into like the vehicles and stuff like that. So I did end up scoring that. And what I was super bummed about was that the Castle Grayskull accessory set was sold out as soon as I get on there. And that was kind of the one I wanted the most. So, this whole Origins thing, I hope he really likes it. That's my ultimate goal, but as a collector and having that collector mentality, the fact that I know that my Castle Grayskull technically won't be complete is just a bummer to me. It sucks. I hope there's a way that they kind of re-release this thing, at least portions of it, because, it is a bummer that we're not going to get that set. At least I'm not, because I'm not going to go pay big money for a $30 set. I'm just not going to do it at this point. There's too much other things I'm into. This is mostly for him, and I have to keep telling myself that. So again, guys, wish me luck on this adventure, collecting these things and having a successful Christmas with him, and that he really starts to fall in love with this line and in the new TV show. That was kind of the ultimate goal with this whole collecting the He-Man Origins line again. And if anybody has an extra Grayskull accessory pack, let me know. If they're looking to get rid of it for a fair price, I'm definitely interested for sure. But again, before I go, there's just one more thing I want to hype up. And that is the second book that I just received from Pixel Dan wrote. And it is the Masters of the Universe action figure, basically encyclopedia, I would say. It's got all the figures from all the different Masters lines. So it's almost like you have this huge checklist. Now, it doesn't have any of the origin stuff because that's really new, but it goes all the way into collection, classics, and 2000X. And most importantly for me, it was really to have a checklist of the original line for nostalgia purposes and be like, oh my God, I remember that, or hey, I didn't own that one, or I had that one. And, you know, just for me and kind of get an idea like, oh, I would love for them to release this on for Origins and stuff like that. So super awesome book. I mean, between the two books that I just showed, they match perfectly together. And I definitely want to give him props for this. It's amazing. I would definitely grab this. You can get it on Amazon. I think that's where I got both these books. So I recently got this just because, again, me kind of back into the mix of like He-Man action figures. I just wanted to kind of have some kind of checklist to look back because, you know, when I'm all in on something, I'm kind of all in. So I just wanted to hype that up really quick because it is killer. Just looking at these things here, look at how thick this is. It's huge. This is so worth the money if you were a fan of He-Man. So thank you guys for checking this out. I know this was a little bit of a longer video, but I wanted to kind of run through my history of He-Man and my current He-Man adventure, and hoping that, you know what, my son kind of gets into the line like I did as a kid, and that starts his love for all this stuff that you see here. And I got a couple other videos coming up. I'm going to do a NECA retrospective video this weekend on a live stream. So make sure to like and subscribe. And you guys can come check me out, chat along with me in the live stream this weekend as we talk about some of the NECA goodness that's out, things we like, things that we would do better, the different collections that we're collecting. So I'm going to be doing one of those this weekend, so keep your eyes open. So definitely hit subscribe on this so you get a notification on it, and definitely come say what's up. Now, if you like this video, hit like. Let me know down below, are you collecting Origins? What are you looking for? How's it been with you when it comes to these exclusives? Things you're liking about the line, things you're not. Give me a little backstory on your He-Man history. Did you collect as a kid? If you're my age, I'm sure you did. So I would love to hear a little bit more about it. And if you guys want, do a little response video to this and let me know a little bit about your He-Man history. I'd love to see it. I'd love to hear it. I'm into this kind of stuff. So again, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with me. And like I always say, stay rad.